Help give kids an extra life by donating today to help sick and injured children. Link in the description and pinned comment below. In case anyone was wondering, no, this video is not sponsored. I just like the shirt. I'm gonna level with you for a second. Of all the franchises that Capcom's been bringing back into prominence over the last few years, which I've brought up before, on multiple occasions, this one wasn't even on my radar. Really? Ghosts and Goblins? One of Capcom's OG series since back in the arcade days? But of all the surprises to come out of the Game Awards last year, the biggest was definitely the reveal of Sephiroth. But we knew there was gonna be a Smash reveal of some kind. This one, on the other hand, came out of nowhere. Mainly because the adventures of Arthur the Brave Knight never struck me as something that would have any chance of garnering mainstream success nowadays. But then again, with Resident Evil, Monster Hunter, Mega Man, and DMC5 raking in the cash, I guess Capcom figured they could afford to dig a bit deeper into their vaults. Guess they decided to dig into the depths of hell while they were at it. I say this because those who know this series know it for its absolutely devilish difficulty. You know how it somehow became socially acceptable to compare every difficult game to Dark Souls, right? Y'all think Dark Souls is hard? Well, it probably is. I've never actually played it. But let me tell ya, back in the day, hardened gamers were forged in the hellfire of games like Ghosts and Goblins. It is absolutely unforgiving. And by the time of this video premiering on YouTube, Ghosts and Goblins Resurrection is already out on Switch. So today, I'm going to talk about both the original Ghosts and Goblins and its immediate arcade sequel, Ghouls N Ghosts. Am I a masochist? Because I think I might be a masochist. So let us begin this tale of foolishly brave knights and wickedly vicious demons with the release of the original Ghosts and Goblins. The game, known as Makaimura, or Demon World Village in Japan, first released in September of 1985, not long before Super Mario Bros. First launched in Japan. Capcom published the game worldwide, except, strangely, for America, where it was distributed by Taito, the company best known for Space Invaders, Bubble Bobble, and Arkanoid. The director of the game was Tokuro Fujiwara, who originally worked at Konami back in the days when they weren't the scum of the industry. He was also involved with games such as Bionic Commando and the Mega Man series. I didn't plan this, I swear. As with a lot of popular arcade games at the time, it was ported up the wazoo. The most well-known of these ports, naturally, was the NES port, but it was also ported to a bunch of home computers of the era, including the Commodore 64, the Amiga, and the MSX. It even got a Game Boy Color port, which shouldn't be surprising considering quite a few NES games got ports on that thing. So let's pop a coin in the slot and start this thing. We open up with a cutscene with our hero Arthur being tended to by the fair Princess Prin Prin. Already they're asking for trouble considering they're in a graveyard of all places. What, was Arthur there to pay respects to his fallen comrades or something? Because that's the only reason I can think that he'd be there to begin with, let alone with the princess. Also, Prin Prin? Her name is Prin Prin? What was the thought process behind this? What do we name this princess? Princess. Prin... Okay, we have no budget for names, so let's go with that. But I'm still thinking. It's okay, Prin Prin's fine. Wait, I'm getting off track here. So, predictably enough, a big red flying demon swoops in to capture the princess, and Arthur, being the brave, powerful, and dedicated knight that he is, sets off to save her. You need to have such a sense of duty to even try it. So let's start off by talking about the kind of game this is. It's an early platformer, and as such, the controls are 80s basic. A joystick, a jump button, and an attack button. The objective is simple. Get to the end of each stage, defeating a crap ton of enemies along the way, defeat the boss, grab the key, and move on to the next stage. Arthur's basic weapon is a jousting lance, but he doesn't stab enemies with it, no. He throws it like a javelin. But because gaming logic, a new one appears in his hands like magic to replace the one he just threw. Along the way, Arthur can obtain new weapons which occasionally drop from pots that some enemies are carrying. These include a torch, an axe, and the weapon you'll likely be looking for the most, the knife. Ask anyone who's played through this game and they'll likely tell you that the knife is a godsend because of its range and firing speed, which will deliver you from quite a few bullshit moments. That's not to say it'll save your ass all the time, oh no. I'm just gonna say this right now. One of the reasons this game's difficulty is so infamous is because there's so little margin for error. Arthur's armor can take any hit, but only any one hit. After that, he's down to his boxer shorts. Another hit, and he's reduced to a pile of bones. And no, I'm not doing the rest of this video in my underwear. I don't want to get flagged for violating community guidelines. Trust me, no one wants to see me in my boxer briefs. While you can find armor to regain that extra hit, you'd have better luck pulling a 5-star on a gacha game. And if you're really unlucky, there's a good chance the knockback will throw you straight into a bottomless pit. Add in places where enemies can spawn in random positions, along with the fact that there's a time limit, and the sight of a pile of bones will be burned into your brain like Firebrand's breath. And you'll get a feel for the game's difficulty in roughly the first minute of the game. First off, you gotta deal with these zombies that spawn continuously, and by that, I mean all the fucking time. There are also these little Shop of Horrors rejects that spit evil eyes at you because Demon Game Makes Sense go yeet, and these crows that predate Medusa heads by about a year, but are somehow less annoying because there aren't any bottomless pits around. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to deal with, but nothing too bad. And then you see it. A winged demon of crimson red. And in your mind, you immediately hear the collective screams and wails of a billion tortured souls. This is the Red Aramer, a monster infamous for its erratic movement and relentless patterns. It has irritatingly precise reflexes which enable it to dodge nearly all of your attacks, and the time it's most vulnerable is when it swoops down to dive bomb your ass. But with proper timing and a little luck, the Bastich goes down in flames, allowing you to move forward, get past some floating knights, deal with some really pesky ghosts that spawn randomly, and take on the boss, a unicorn demon. Its jumps cover a lot of ground and it can shoot fireballs, but once you take it down, you can take a key for coming in and move on to stage 2, the Demon Village. The round starts off navigating these ice platforms with mouse holes in them for these little devils to slowly close in on you. Don't even ignore these guys, they will overwhelm you if you leave them alone. At the end of this part, you'll have to take a leap of faith and land on a platform that will drop as soon as you do land on it. I'm not sure if you know this, but Arthur can't swim. And not much further past the halfway point, you'll hopefully have the knife because you'll have to deal with these ogres who throw maces and take about 10 hits to kill. And you can't throw vertically, so you have to put yourself in their line of fire, and once you're on their level, they kick in the afterburners. But getting past this tough area isn't cause to celebrate yet. Die anywhere past that, and it's back to the checkpoint. So it's time for my secret weapon. Yes, I'm using save states. No, I'm not ashamed. This is Ghosts and Goblins! So after you get through this section of moving platforms, which is a lot easier than the previous section, mind you, you have to deal with 2 unicorn demons. Fun! Okay, but now we're into the second third of the game, and this is where things really start to roast you. We're now in an underground passage chock full of zombies, bats, and living rocks. Yeah, they attack in great numbers and slow you down, but hey, they're not the problem. The problem starts when you reach the checkpoint. That's where you find the first Red Aramer in the level. That's right, first. There are no less than 6 of these devils throughout this level. One of them was actually bad enough. You think I want to deal with 6? I'd say I'd rather take my chances in the actual hell, but I have a bad feeling that place is crawling with these guys too. Boss here is a dragon that flies around and shoots fireballs. Its weak point is the head because that's one of the few things in the game that actually makes sense, but you can destroy the individual segments of its body. So we kill the thing because every knight has to slay a dragon, it's part of the job description. Stage 4 starts with navigating a bunch of eyeball platforms. They can be a bit tricky to navigate, but they're not dangerous. Unless, you know, that happens. Anyways, we make our way to the other side, and who should be waiting for us but yet another Red Aramer? Am I actually in hell? Well, seeing there's a bridge over actual fire, it wouldn't freaking surprise me. And I gotta deal with more of the little imps from stage 2 and yet another Red Aramer before fighting another dragon. Well, nothing to it but to do it. But the worst is still yet to come. The last 2 stages are the most brutal of them all. They're basically the ascent up the demon castle, and as such are more vertical. Stage 5 in particular throws most of what you'd encountered so far at you. The ghosts, the imps, the bats, even a new enemy. Skulls that actually turn out to be skeletons when you get near them. And that's just the first half of the level, which is cordoned off by, of course, another red armor. I'd say these things would be the death of me, except they've already caused about 10 deaths already by now. And the second half of the stage throws in the ogres and the cloud platforms for good measure, and the music changes around this point. That's something that usually happens near a boss. Eventually, you reach the top, and that's the Satan who stole our girl. And of course, he's erratic as hell with evil magic breath and a swoop that's irritatingly accurate. At least we've hit the checkpoint by... Wait, I'm back at the start of the level? Two things kept me from screaming at this point. One, I had save states. Two, I live in an apartment and don't want a noise violation. So after a ton of knives, Satan goes down, and the last level is essentially a boss rush interspersed with other annoying enemies. First, you deal with 2 unicorns, which is almost impossible without taking a hit, so I cheesed iframes. Then a dragon, then after a couple of enemies, a shield drops. It's not all that good, but pick it up. You can't even face the final boss without it. Otherwise, you get sent back to level 5. Also, a set of armor dropped here. It's like the devs knew. Not to mention, some of the enemies in the final stretch are exceedingly unfairly placed. And waiting at the top, not 1, but 2 Satans. Again, 1 was bad enough. I lost track of how many times I had to load my save state. Compared to that, the fight with Astaroth was a joke. Beat him first try. This room is an illusion and is a trap devised by Satan? Go ahead dauntlessly, make rapid progress? You gotta be kidding me! After all the tricky platforming, all the ghosts, all the red armors, all the annoying enemies, all those damage sponges, and all those aggravating bosses, I have to do it all again?
That is bullshit lazy! Still my heart is lazy! If the word kill me, I don't need a new one other!
This is one of the trademarks of the entire series. From the original to Ultimate, it's impossible to complete the entire game by clearing every level once. But there is no way in any hell, real or digital, that I will be denied. I am going to beat this game! Astaroth! I came for my princess and I'm getting her back no matter what! Yeah! Eat shit, asshole! Give me my happy end! Being the wise and courageous knight that you are, you feel strong swelling in your body. Return to starting point, challenge again. Yeah, how about we don't? Yeah, this game is hard as hell and not for the right reasons. So much of the challenge comes from unfair bullshit like enemies placed in just the wrong places. By the time you get to the true ending, you'll have probably spent enough in quarters to buy an actual Dark Souls game. Not that it's all bad here. The sprite work is great for the era, the controls feel intuitive, except for the jumping that feels like Castlevania would a year later. The music is iconic and has that old Capcom twang to it, but it strangely pauses for a moment when you pick up an item. Bottom line, it's worth trying, but you better do it on something with save states if you value your sanity. As frustrating as the game is by today's standards, it was a hit in arcades back in the day. Enough so to get a sequel 3 years later under the name of Ghouls N Ghosts, or Daima Kaimura in Japan, which means Great Demon World Village. The game was developed for Capcom's then new CPS-1 arcade board, and is in fact the second game developed for that hardware, the first being Forgotten Worlds. As such, the presentation, specifically the graphics and music, are improved quite a bit. So the game picks up 3 years after Arthur defeated Astaroth and saved Princess... Prin, and a new demon lord, Lucifer, has risen. First order of business, stealing the souls of the entire kingdom, right down to the princess, of course. Oh well, a night's work is never done. Stage 1 is a ground for executions, filled with stocks, guillotines, crucifixes, and other morbid imagery. One thing you'll notice is the addition of treasure chests. These can contain weapons, but more often they contain evil magicians that place temporary curses on Arthur. Seeing the night as a duck is surprisingly humorous. Aside from some new weapons, there's also a new golden armor for Arthur. Oh, I'm sorry, did I say golden armor? I meant magical golden armor. Yeah, whenever you have this on, you'll be able to charge up magic attacks depending on your weapon. Unfortunately, it isn't any more durable. Like the bog standard Iron Mail, it disappears in one hit. Also, as an improvement to control, you can now shoot up and down. In fact, overall, this game honestly felt more fair to me than the original. Granted, it's still really hard, but it felt like it came down a bit more to genuine challenge than flat-out bullshit. Also, one thing I forgot to mention from the original, but you'll generally have an idea as to the location of the checkpoint when the general environment starts to change. Stage 1 transitions to a haunted forest filled with mini tornado demons, evil plants and vines, and a couple of demon pigs, leading to a boss fight with a fiend who carries his head as a weapon. Seeing a bit more creativity here. Stage 2 starts in a ruined village filled with stone turtles, scorpion flies, and brittle bridges over antlion pits. One serious complaint I have about the bridges is that there's no indication whatsoever which segments will break. There's especially no excuse for that because later on, there are some sections of land that crumble in an earthquake and you can tell which parts of the ground will move. But that's not until after the Red Aramer King. That's right, those devils have a ranking system. And the kings can summon those little imps from the first game on top of the same extreme reflexes of their predecessors, and they're just as annoying to fight. Second half is the part of the village that's still burning. The main enemies are those man-eating plants from the first game, as well as fire bats that can appear from flame pillars, and the boss is a Cerberus, which for some reason has only one head instead of 3, but is wreathed in hellfire, so at least that part's accurate. I only now realize I could have made a joke about Sodom and Gomorrah. Oh well, looking back, it probably would have made a lot of people salty anyway. Stage 3 starts with a trip up a tower via a moving platform, with rock-dropping imps, slime knights, and skeleton balloons. You gotta move smartly here to avoid getting crushed, let alone get through the path forward in time. Second half is some really tricky platforming on the tongues of these demon statues, with the boss being what I can only describe as the ancestor of Krakow from the Kirby series. Stage 4 starts in a crystal cave with eyeless worms coming out of the wall and stalagmites with faces, transitioning to a slippery water slide with hands that have faces on them, and dragon worms. Watch for spikes, bro. Leading to a drop down to some plants with demon worms in the wall, and the boss is a gigantic caterpillar. Ew. The final stage is the demon castle itself. The first half throws all sorts of enemies at you, including skeletal dragons, demon pigs, multiple Red Aramer kings, and the checkpoint is guarded by Astaroth? Seriously, dude, why don't you stay dead? The second half is a bit of a boss rush. Multiple shielder heads, 3 Gasutos, and 2 Astaroths? How many of these great demon lords are there? And the boss is Beelzebub. Literally a giant fly that spits acid and splits into a swarm of flies. Beat him, and it's on to the final... Oh wait, that's right. I need a certain weapon before I can even fight the final boss. So, how far back is it, huh? I have to go back to the beginning? And I can't even get the weapon unless... I'm wearing the golden armor?
That is bullshit blazing! Still my heart is blazing!
So the weapon I'm after is called the Psycho Cannon, and at least they tell you how to get it. So after going through the entire game a second time, I finally faced Lucifer, and for being a Demon King, he doesn't do much. He sits on his throne, fires finger lasers, stomps around, and dies in less than 30 seconds. So all the stolen souls are restored, Arthur is reunited with his princess, and a terribly translated ending caps off a sequel that's honestly significantly better than its predecessor. And the ending concludes by asking, is Arthur's battle truly over? I'll let you in on a secret, just come a little closer, I need to whisper it so that no one else picks up on it. Of course it fucking wasn't! 1991 gave us Super Ghouls N Ghosts on the Super Nintendo, which added an extra level of armor and weapon power-ups, as well as a double jump, but took away vertical aiming for some reason. Oh, that's why. 2006 saw the release of Ultimate Ghosts N Goblins for the PSP, which expanded the gameplay considerably in such ways as more durable armor, and tying the final battle to collectibles. Heck, there was even a game in the series for the Japanese-only WonderSwan in 1999. Not to mention there's 2 series of spin-offs, specifically the Gargoyles Quest series, which features a certain Red Aramer named Firebrand, that's right, the winged bastard got his own spin-off, and the Maximo series for the PS2. And both Arthur and Firebrand have appeared in many crossovers such as Marvel vs. Capcom. And finally, we come to today. Ghosts N Goblins Resurrection on the Switch. And while the change in platform brings a change to the art style and the music and sound, one thing that Capcom has promised won't change is the intense difficulty. Hell, they've even got new ways to express that difficulty, such as shadow levels and what they're literally calling hellholes. If it makes you all feel any better, the new game will give you new ways to give you more of a chance. They're throwing in new spells, new items, a skill tree, and other stuff. They've also added easier difficulty levels, including a practice mode. My advice for people new to the series? Make use of that. Fun fact, I was originally planning to do an entirely different classic game series, specifically from Namco. I mean, the only time I've covered the true kings of the arcade was the first of these arcade videos. I figured it was time to get back to them. Leave it to a surprise announcement to get in the way, huh? I'm the Quarter Guy, and until next time, the arcade is closed.